believed in fate. But looking back, I sometimes wonder if that night at the kitchen table had been carved into our path from the beginning. Lauren sat across from me in her soft robe, hair twisted up with lazy indifference, a half-finished glass of Pinot Noir in her hand, like it was just another Tuesday. Her face was calm, clinical even, the kind of calm that only someone with a premeditated plan could wear so naturally. "It's not about cheating," she said. "It's about freedom, experience. We're still young. Wouldn't it be interesting to explore what else is out there?" It wasn't a question, not really. More like a test, one she already knew I'd fail, or pass, depending on how you define betrayal. I remember staring at the bottle of wine between us, half listening, half gripping the edges of my mind, like they were the only thing keeping me from floating off. What she was really saying was, "I've already opened the door. I just want you to say you're okay with it." So I did. And maybe I was afraid to lose her. Maybe I thought if I agreed, she'd come back. Or maybe I just wanted to beat her at her own game. That's the part I still can't untangle. At first, nothing changed on the surface. But you start to notice things when you live with someone. The longer silences, the untouched leftovers, the scent of a different cologne lingering on her skin when she kissed me goodnight without making eye contact. I didn't ask. I didn't want the answer. Instead, I pretended. I smiled through our openness, joked about it to friends who didn't know how to respond, said we were just experimenting like it was a new brunch spot. Meanwhile, I was eating dinner alone, again, watching the dishes pile up like silent accusations, waiting. The first fight wasn't really a fight, more like a disconnection, sharp enough to cut without leaving a mark. "Hey," I'd said one night, "I might start seeing someone too." She didn't flinch, just sipped her wine and replied, "Your call." No jealousy, no curiosity, not even a flicker of interest. That was when I realized I wasn't in a relationship anymore. I was in a performance, and Lauren had stopped being my audience. Enter Kaylee. She wasn't someone you plan on falling into, not beautiful in the conventional way. Sharp-angled, assertive, always a bit too loud at the office. But that night, after a brutal client pitch that ran hours late, we found ourselves in a cafe 2 blocks from our office, sharing an exhausted silence over burnt espresso. "You look like someone who needs a real drink," she said with a laugh. "God, yes," I replied. 3 hours passed. I didn't even check my phone. She listened. She made space. When I mentioned I was in a semi-relationship, she didn't wrinkle her nose or ask questions, just took a sip of her coffee and said, "How's that working out for you?" It wasn't judgment, just curiosity, and I had no answer. By the time I invited her to my place for dinner, I had already crossed lines in my head I hadn't admitted out loud. It wasn't the sex, it was the intimacy, the way she asked about my day and remembered the answers, the way she made me feel seen again. Lauren noticed immediately. She didn't say anything at first, but her behavior changed. Suddenly, she was home every night, cooking, laughing at my jokes like we were in a romantic comedy reboot, touching me again, not out of habit, but with deliberate intention. Too late. "You're seeing someone, aren't you?" she asked one night, folding laundry as if the words didn't sting. "Isn't that the whole point of an open relationship?" I replied. Her eyes narrowed. "But who?" A pause. "It's Kaylee, right?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The silence after that was deafening. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just shut down, like someone had turned off a light behind her eyes. I tried to find relief in that, but it felt hollow. This was supposed to be fair, equal, 2 people exploring, but somehow it felt like I had broken the rules of a game she had invented. Maybe because, for the first time, I wasn't following her anymore. Lauren didn't ask any more questions that night, but something had shifted. The next morning, she was up before me, hair curled, mascara perfect, coffee already brewing. Her phone, once left charging openly in the living room, was now glued to her side with the screen turned down. She laughed at her texts like they were inside jokes with someone I hadn't been introduced to. I recognized the signs. God, I knew the signs. Except this time, I wasn't the one pacing the apartment at 2 a.m., wondering who she was with. This time, I was the one being shut out. I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. But part of me did. That part of me that still believed maybe, just maybe, this was salvageable. That if we could just talk, yell, cry, something, we might find our way back. But we never did talk. We just drifted quietly, like 2 satellites out of each other's orbit. Until that night, I'd just gotten home from work. I was grabbing beers from the fridge, thinking I'd text Kaylee later when I saw it. A wine glass on the counter. Red. Half full. Lauren's favorite. I froze. Expecting someone? She turned from the window slowly, her voice too calm. He just left. My pulse stuttered. I nodded, walked past her like I didn't care, but I felt her behind me, following, waiting. His name's Alec. He's a photographer, she said. He's actually quite sweet. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. My grip on the bottle tightened, cold biting into my hand. She added, he says I deserve more. I turned around. More than what, Lauren? A husband who stuck around while you explored? She didn't flinch. You agreed to this. No, I snapped. I agreed because I thought it would fix us. I didn't think you'd fall in love with someone else. Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't raise her voice. And what about Kaylee? You think I don't see the way you look at her? Like she's your clean slate? She treats me like I matter. Lauren's jaw twitched. So did I. Once. There it was, the bleeding heart of it all, finally torn open. No pretenses, no therapy talk, no metaphors about growing apart, just pain, laid bare. We didn't sleep in the same bed that night. She didn't ask me to come back. I didn't try. By the end of the week, I'd moved into the guest room. Not that it mattered. The real dividing wall had already been built months earlier. It was just now physical, and yet, for all the silence, there was tension building. Something still unspoken. Some final blow waiting to land. It came the following Sunday. Kaylee came over late that afternoon. I hadn't told her much, just that things were rocky, that I was still figuring things out. She brought a bottle of wine anyway. Said we could commiserate like adults, which I appreciated. There was a breezy confidence about her, something Lauren had once had before everything got complicated. We were sitting on the balcony, watching the sun drop behind the Seattle skyline, when the sliding door opened. Lauren stepped out. Her hair was pulled back tight. No makeup, no jewelry, just a stare that could cut glass. Kaylee stood up automatically. Hi, you must be Lauren. I am, Lauren said. No smile. Silence stretched. Lauren's gaze didn't flicker. She looked Kaylee up and down, casually, but with precision, assessing. You're the one he's been cooking for, she said, as if announcing a weather report. Kaylee smiled. It was soft, unfazed, but her eyes were sharp. I guess we both know what that feels like. Boom. Lauren blinked, just once. She hadn't expected that. I stood frozen between them. Not a word from me. Couldn't have spoken if I tried. I'm not here to cause problems, Kaylee added, but I'm also not going to pretend he didn't ask me to stay for dinner more than once. Lauren didn't look at me, didn't even acknowledge the comment. Instead, she stepped closer. You think this means you've won? Kaylee tilted her head. I didn't know we were playing. That was the moment I knew. This was no longer about me. It hadn't been for a while. This was territory, ego, pride. Two women who saw something in each other they couldn't stand, maybe because it was too familiar. Lauren's voice dropped low. You're not the first woman to think he's your redemption. Kaylee's smile faltered just enough to show it stung, but she recovered fast. Maybe not, but I won't let him become my regret. Silence. I finally spoke. Okay, that's enough. Both of them turned to look at me at the same time, and suddenly, I felt like a prop in a war I had started but no longer controlled. That night, after Kaylee left, Lauren and I sat in silence at opposite ends of the couch. No wine, no music, just the sound of a clock we never noticed before. Eventually, she stood up and walked away. No words, no goodnight, just the soft click of our bedroom door closing behind her. And in that quiet, I realized the apartment wasn't home anymore. It was a graveyard of shared intentions, a stage set for ghosts. I didn't expect Kaylee to text me the next day, but she did. Just checking in. You okay? I stared at the screen for a long time. There were so many ways I could answer that question. No, yes, I don't know. Please come back. Instead, I sent back the safest lie I could muster. Yeah, I'm fine. The truth, I wasn't. Lauren and I barely spoke now. The apartment, once filled with late-night takeout and spontaneous Sunday dance parties, had become a soundless vacuum. We moved around each other like ghosts, civil but hollow. She stopped mentioning Alec. I stopped mentioning Kaylee, but I noticed things. Alec's jacket folded neatly on the back of our dining chair one evening, a strand of long black hair on Lauren's pillow that wasn't hers. Once, I heard her in the shower, whispering to someone on speakerphone. Soft giggles, that breathless kind of laughter I hadn't heard from her in months, maybe years. And I was no better. Kaylee became a habit, a kind of escape hatch I never said out loud. We hadn't slept together, not yet. But the tension buzzed louder every time we met. We were all pretending that this was still workable, that no one was bleeding. Until that night. It was a Friday. I came home late, rain-soaked, exhausted, wanting nothing more than to collapse on the couch with something strong and a distraction. But Lauren was there, sitting on the floor, legs crossed, glass of wine beside her, and an envelope in her hand. She looked up at me. "I found this under the bed," she said. I froze. It was the letter Kaylee had written me, something I'd tucked away after our last dinner together. She'd written it half as a joke, half as a confession. It said things like, "When you're ready, I will be too." And, "I don't want to be your escape. I want to be your choice." Lauren held it like a scalpel, not angry, just deliberate. "So," she said, "are you choosing her?" I opened my mouth, then closed it again. "I don't know," I finally admitted. Wrong answer. She smiled, tight, bitter. "God, you really don't, do you?" She stood up, walked past me, poured herself more wine, and didn't look back. "You know what Alex said?" she asked, her voice almost gentle. "He said I light up when I'm not here, when I talk about other cities, other lives, ones where I'm not waiting for someone to love me again." I didn't answer. "And you," she added, turning to face me now. "You've been halfway out the door since the second Kaylee smiled at you." I swallowed hard. "You opened that door, Lauren." She shook her head. "Number I offered us something messy and human. You packed a suitcase and fell in love with the first person who looked at you like you were whole." Silence. She walked closer. We stood inches apart. "Let's stop pretending," she whispered. "You're not mine anymore. I'm not yours. So just say it. Say what we both know." I looked at her, and for a second, I saw the girl I had fallen in love with. The way she used to curl into me during thunderstorms. The way she knew exactly how I took my coffee. The way she once planned a surprise birthday dinner with all my friends, even the ones she didn't like. And I hated her for still knowing how to get to me. So I said the one thing I didn't want to say. "I think I want to be with Kaylee." Lauren didn't cry. She nodded calmly, walked to the sink, emptied the wine, rinsed the glass. Then, without looking at me, she said, "Okay." That night, she didn't sleep in the bed. Neither did I. She took the couch. I stayed in the guest room, staring at the ceiling like it held answers. In the early morning, I heard her moving around, bags zipping, keys jangling, her footsteps careful not to wake me. She was leaving, not slamming doors, not screaming, just quietly disappearing. And when I got up, just a few minutes too late, her side of the closet was already empty. A note on the counter read, "No more ultimatums, just choices. This is mine. L." I stood there in the quiet, holding her handwriting, realizing I had finally gotten the freedom we both asked for, and it felt like a funeral. The apartment was unbearably still. Lauren had always left traces, half-read novels on the nightstand, a faint perfume trail in the hallway, the plant she always forgot to water but refused to let die. But now, all of it was gone. Not emptied, not abandoned. Stripped. A careful, intentional erasure. She took the charger from the living room, the extra towels, the baking sheets, left my toothbrush by the sink, but took the soap dispenser. The kind of separation that screams, "I'm done taking care of you." I stood in the middle of the living room, like a man in a burned-out building, not yet realizing he survived a fire. That's when Kaylee texted me again. "Thinking about you? Want company?" God, did I? I didn't answer right away. I went to the bedroom, opened the closet, stared at the empty half like it might offer comfort. Instead, I thought of Alec, how he must have watched her walk out of here and into his arms like some poetic handoff. I wondered if he had ever met me in passing. If he knew he'd won something that still had my fingerprints all over it. I finally replied, "Sure, come over." Kaylee showed up with groceries, pasta, wine, a candle. "Too much?" she asked with a nervous laugh as she kicked off her boots. "Number, it's good," I said. We ate. We talked. She didn't bring up Lauren, and I didn't bring up Alec. It was safer that way. But safety can be its own form of dishonesty. After dinner, we sat on the couch. She leaned her head against my shoulder. "You okay?" she asked quietly. I paused. "I think so." "You?" She nodded. "Mostly. But this isn't what I imagined, you know? What did you imagine? That I'd finally get to be with the guy I'd been falling for, without the ghost of his ex still in the room." I looked down at her. She wasn't smiling. "Is she still here?" Kaylee asked. I could have lied. Said number. Told her it was over, clean and easy. But ghosts aren't banished that simply. "She's here in all the places she used to be," I said. "But that doesn't mean I don't want to try." Kaylee looked at me like she was deciding whether that was enough. Eventually, she kissed me. We started seeing each other more. She began staying over, left a toothbrush, a hoodie, took my phone to play music while she cooked. It should have felt new, light, like a second chance. Instead, it felt like a reconstruction over fault lines. Some nights were good, really good. We laughed, we made plans. I started to believe we might build something. But other nights, she'd catch me zoning out in the middle of dinner, or staring at the guest room door too long. And she'd go quiet, guarded, like she was bracing for something I hadn't yet said. One night, I found her in the bathroom crying. She said it was nothing, just stress. But I knew she wanted to be someone's beginning, not thereafter. Then came the message. A random Wednesday. No context. Hey, just wanted you to know. I'm moving to Portland. Alec got a gallery job there. We're going together. Lauren. No punctuation, no flourish, just fact. I stared at it for a full minute before I responded. Okay, I hope you're happy. She didn't reply, but I kept hearing the words anyway. We're going together. Final. That night, Kaylee looked at me across the table. Candle burning low, pasta cold between us. You're not over her, she said. I'm trying, but I'm not a Band-Aid, she said softly. I'm not the victory prize for surviving heartbreak. I don't see you that way, I whispered. She smiled sadly. Maybe not with your words. She got up, walked to the door, paused with her hand on the knob. I love you, she said, but I'm not going to bleed for a place that still belongs to someone else. And then she was gone. That's how it ended. No screaming, no epic closure. Just two women walking out of my life. One after I hurt her, one after she realized I'd been too hurt to offer anything real. Now the apartment is quiet again, but not peaceful. The couch still holds the echo of two different bodies. The kitchen remembers hands that don't belong to me anymore. And I'm here, no longer in an open relationship. Just open to the absence, to the guilt, to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, some doors should never be opened at all. Sometimes endings don't arrive like crashing waves. They settle in like dust. Months have passed. The apartment is quieter now, stripped down to essentials. I've kept some things. The crooked picture frame Lauren always straightened, the wine glass Kaylee left behind. Not as mementos, just unthrown. I don't speak to either of them. They became stories I tell myself on sleepless nights. Regrets blur into lessons. Love becomes a past tense. And me? I'm not chasing closure anymore. I wake up, I make coffee, I go to work. Some days that's enough, some days it isn't. But I've learned this much. Freedom without honesty is just a slow kind of grief. We open the door to everything. Desire, resentment, hope. And in the end, we each walked out alone.